Wow, that was incredible. Thank you for that trivia, for all of the chatter, and for everything involved. My name is Rob Schulte, and I've got a couple of guests coming in here soon enough. Molly Schwartz, my co-host on Vanderpump Robs, and Shannon McNamara, host of Fluently Forward. Now, hey Molly, hey Shannon.
Hi, Rob.
Hey.
Welcome. See, this is exciting. We have 30 whole minutes to talk about books on a 12-hour marathon. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Molly, we've been doing Winter House as as Mariana and Mike had told us earlier. It's a weird spinoff because we've had two members of Vanderpump Rules on there for like an episode and a half, and I can't get enough of it. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel like the Tom and Tom guest appearance, that was ample justification for Winter House. I feel like the spinoff makes total sense. I'm so glad we're doing it. I listened to this last week's episode of you and Craig and thoroughly enjoyed it.
So, thank you. And Shannon, we recently did an episode together where you and I talked about Stassi Schroeder's two books and her blind items on Fluently Forward, and I feel like we both learned a lot in that episode.
Yeah, so much reading. Very bookworm of us this week. But yeah, I mean, I'm a noob to Vanderpump Rules, but I'm excited to be along for the ride because everything I learn makes me more excited to dig more into them. So yeah.
Yeah. So I had assigned us both a couple of chapters from one particular book that I think stood out above the rest, because if people are interested in this conversation, they can head to Fluently Forward and listen to the Stassi stuff. They can head to Vanderpump Robs podcast and hear little snippets Molly and I talk about. But I kind of wanted to run through the books that we didn't do first. Just one of those would be Give Them Lala, which I got for $1.50 off of Thrift Books. This one did not make the New York Times bestseller, but does have an audio version if people would like to listen to Lala, listen or read her own book. Here's what the back of that one looks like. It's very fancy. Lala also has a makeup line if you're interested in that, anyone. Not me, but I did buy some of that makeup for my partner, who we refer to as Mrs. Columbo on this show.
And what was the review, by the way? Is it good? Is it pigmented?
I don't know if it actually ever got used. So maybe that's a review all in itself.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, this one I got as a Secret Santa gift last year, which is Fancy AF Cocktails, which, Shannon, I know you and I have a lot of thoughts on the phrase AF. Molly, did you know that Stassi Schroeder uses AF at least twice a chapter in all of her books?
No. Are these like Easter eggs or branding, or is it like just editorial?
It might be a new vocab rule. Like I thought that Q and U went together, but I think I was wrong and it's AF. And it was like in probably every fourth sentence or something. It was crazy.
That's so distracting.
It really was. And
distracting
I was AF. Totes distracting AF. I was listening to the audiobook of Next Level Basic, and it was very hard because once you start hearing AF, it might be more distracting than listening to AF. So I don't know.
Wait,
or
does Stassi read the audiobook version?
Oh yes. It's everything you've wanted it to be, because we get Stassi, controversy and all. It's the definitive basic bitch handbook. You get where we're going with here. And then Shannon, you recently read Off With My Head.
Yes, or about 70% of it, but I feel like I was able to get the main gist of what was happening.
Yeah, they essentially seem like the exact same book. Now, none of these are what we're talking about today, but I will say a big thing that Shannon and I realized was that both Off With My Head and Next Level Basic were like the Notes app, Twitter, Instagram apologies in long form. And maybe, I think, Shannon, you said it was, but more poorly written.
Yeah, because at least those Notes apologies, you can tell that a bunch of people around a conference table, put the right grammar in there, a few vocab words, right? I'm tremendously sorry, or, words like that. And we got a little bit more of the totes and the OMG and the AF. So it was kind of like a Sparks Notes version of that.
It's true. And each chapter of Next Level Basic, I should say, ends with a listicle of ways to be like Stassi. So it's all of this internet culture rolled into one with more references to Dub Smash. Molly, do you remember Dub Smash, the app?
I can't say I was a big user of it, but no. So that'll be a no.
Minted in a very specific time. Get Next Level Basic.
Okay.
Molly, you're a big reader, right? But have you ever partook in a Vanderpump Rules or celebrity written novel?
I cannot say that I have read a Vanderpump Rules novel. I did recently read Kelly Ripa's new book, partly because I work in journalism. So I was just like, maybe there'll be some juicy stuff in here. But apparently they say Kelly Ripa did not use a ghostwriter or any like help with it, which is, I feel like, unusual for a celebrity written book. But I haven't read any of the Vanderpump books. I've been a little tempted, but like not tempted enough, to be honest. But I'm so glad we're doing these chapters now, because I feel like it's the next step. That this is what I have to get into next. I've already watched all the shows. I feel like I need to read the books.
It's true. And Shannon, just for clarity's sake, are you a celebrity book novel reader? Is it something you consume?
I listen to mine. I'm a big fan of the Celebrity Memoir Book Club girls. So have I consumed a lot of those memoirs? Yes, but not with my eyes, with my ears.
I'm the same way. They say scientifically, there is no difference. So I say, put it in the earbuds. We're all podcasting folk here. The more we can get people to listen to things without using their eyes. What am I saying? Anyway, I do want to say Canadian Podcast Awards are in the chat today, and I am really looking forward to winning a Canadian Podcast Award for a show based out of West Hollywood, California. That is a goal I didn't know I had on my list, but it's now right up at the top. So next year, we'll see. The book we did take a couple of chapters from today is called He's Making You Crazy: How to Get the Guy, Get Even, and Get Over It by Kristen Doty.
She should have had in there How to Get Off, and that's a little bonus chapter.
It's true. It's true.
X-rated, yeah.
I'm just going to put this right up here because you two have disappeared from my view, but you're back now, and it's great. This does have a co-writer, not a ghostwriter, apparently, because it's right on the cover. It's with Michelle Alexander, the co-author of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. So I think we get an idea of the vibe of this book, all from the cover of it. Very powerful imaging, a little script. It's almost like a journal. It's a personal essay sort of thing. I chose a couple of chapters, and I chose a couple of moments from those chapters that I would like to read from. But Molly, I'd like to throw to you. Is there any just overarching? Let's talk about the first chapter that we are looking at, which is called, I believe, Family Affair. Right? Yeah. Now, what were your initial thoughts on Family Affair?
At first, I was troubled because I realized that this is really like a teenage romance, and I assume as the book goes on, Kristen gets older, and I might feel like a little more comfortable reading about her romances as an adult. And also, I was troubled because there's a little twist at the end of the chapter, but before the twist came, I was like, are these really the lessons that we're trying to pass on? I don't know if you want me to give the basic thesis, but
hey, go for it in this chapter. I think that would be great. And then Shannon, we'll go to you with some thoughts on it too.
Yeah. So Kristen has a crush on her friend's older brother and goes through giving tips about how to win a guy through her process of trying to win over this older brother. And a lot of them are the kind of things that like you're kind of told not to do. It's like,
yes,
change everything about you so that he will like you more, I would say. And I was like, is this really where we're going? On one hand, I really do appreciate a schemer, and Kristen is definitely a schemer. Like, I appreciate someone who's an operator, who's always like thinking, you know, in 3-dimensional chess, and she's definitely doing that. I would say some examples, maybe the most the striking example for me was that she orchestrated a party in the friend's basement and made sure they would play Spin the Bottle and practiced spinning the bottle so that she was able to make the bottle point toward her crush so they could have a kiss. And I was like, honestly, respect.
Yeah. I mean, and we see that in an episode of Vanderpump Rules as well. So it's a skill she's kept throughout the years.
That was the other thing I wanted to comment on, was I was like, there are elements of Kristen and Vanderpump Rules that we see here. And that's maybe what I enjoyed the most. So first of all, her using like chores to win people over and show her love. Like, she talks about making the popcorn, doing the laundry. We see this come up in her relationships with Tom Sandoval and later Carter. Also, she's a little sneaky already. So like, she is not telling her good friend that she has a crush on her older brother, and that's why she's doing all of these things. And in my mind, I was kind of like, why not just tell your friend?
You never know. I mean, maybe it's because she's 16, but
sure.
I don't know.
A lot of room for
but
growth
I'm right
left.
there with you. Yeah. Shannon, what were some of the thoughts that jumped out to you in this chapter called Family Affair?
Very similar to you, Molly. And I completely agree with your take. She has all these reinvention tactics. And even the first one, be more mature, the first sentence is, act older and wiser than you are. So it's not being mature, it's just acting more mature. And this is going to make sense, but I play a lot of The Sims. I love it.
Yes.
And you can give each of your Sims like an aspiration. And that's what they strive for in life. And that could be being the best painter or arter or having a big family. Artist, not arter. And I just think with all of this masterminding and dedication, if instead of wanting her best friend's brother, she said, let me try to make healthcare more affordable. She probably could have done it at 16 with the amount of tenacity and drive she has. It's just for the stupidest goal, but you have to really hand it to her. She did map out an entire world lifestyle change to win over this brother.
It's crazy the amount of steps that would go into just something that is like, I'm coming into just enjoying the idea of crushes at that age. Like, if we look at it, there's reinvention tactic number 1, be more mature, which is the title of that. Then there's tactic 2, no more pajamas, because at sleepovers, you got to look your best for the older brother. Tactic 3, form a strong bond, which is similar to what you all were saying. Not really actually forming the bond, but doing the things that make it seem like you've got a bond. Tactic 4, become super good at something he's good at. So learn the cheat codes to Madden NFL, apparently, is that one. Which, I mean, no one wants to cheat in the game. They just want someone to be good at the game. It's like if I was playing the Herbs, the Sims spinoff, and just got all the money for the apartment I was getting. Anyway, there's be best friends with his best friends, which leads to the party and the spin the bottle. And it comes to the end where it's like, you should never do any of these things.
Oh, by the way, Rob, there was you missed one of the tactics. It's tactic number 6, and it says, sit down with yourself in a quiet moment of contemplation and ask yourself, what has he done for you?
Ah, yes.
Oh no, sorry, that's not it. That's not in here.
That got cut.
Every single thing. It's like completely centers him. It's just like bizarre. I mean, we all do that at 16, but still.
Sure. One segment I wanted to read from this chapter, it just, I think really cements the style of this book. And it goes like this. When they came to pick me up in the minivan, I couldn't wait to jump in the back into my regular seat next to him. And there she was, with her extra wavy blonde ponytail, holding hands with him. His date. Had I just been disposable to him? Where had she been all this time? I had put in the work. What did she do? So, out of sight, out of mind. I couldn't imagine anyone else spending time with him. And she was wearing what I can only describe as the lamest outfit I'd ever seen. A neon skirt and knockoff Uggs. Who wears that to a Cranberries concert? Wow. Apparently, that was something that he wanted out of his dating partner. But it's
Something
16.
tells me he didn't care at all about what she was wearing to the Cranberries concert.
You know what would have been funniest too? If he had like the biggest thing for a girl in pajamas, and the whole time she's like, get rid of mine. And meanwhile, he's like, I just love a girl in those flannel PJs. And maybe that's what blonde ponytail brought to the table.
Oh, man. Okay. Since we are getting close to the end, I do want to talk about this shorter chapter called The Thespian, which I don't know if you all know this, but I love the spotlight. I love being on stage. I love being in front of a microphone, doing a live stream, talking about Vanderpump Rules. I was a high school thespian towards my junior and senior year. I did one play and I got bit by that bug. Went into college, didn't know what I wanted to be, and so I had to choose a major, which was also theater and film. And here we are today. I do nothing with either of them. Whatever. You could argue that. So I thought this would be a good one for me. Shannon, let's start with you. Was there anything about the thespian that jumped out to you?
I thought this was very interesting because in the first chapter that we read, she was obsessed with the the best friend's brother. And now the tables have turned and this thespian is obsessed with her. And she didn't use the term the ick, but you kind of start to see it happening a little bit. And I thought it was so funny, the part where she's getting totally icked out by him. But then when she sees him up on that stage playing Danny Zuko in Grease, she goes, wait a minute, I think I like this guy. And haven't we all, there's something magic about a stage. You could put a turd on a stage playing the drums and I would be like, that turd, is he like single? You know what I mean? So I found it funny that like even that hit her. There's something about seeing somebody with that spotlight on them that makes you go, they're a little bit more special now, aren't they?
Tell me more, Mr. Turd. Molly, how about you? Anything on this chapter jump out to you?
The fact that she co-opted the limo. Again, I was like impressed. Yeah, so she's dating this thespian. At first, she's not sure she's into him. He gets up on stage. It happens to all of us, I think. Someone, like Shannon said, someone's on stage and they become instantly more attractive. But then he stands her up at her father's wedding. Her father's getting remarried. I think he's supposed to be her date. He doesn't show up. And so she co-ops her father's limo, like for his wedding, to get driven to her date's house and confronts him. This is, I think, what I respect the most about Kristen in these chapters and in general is just she is bold.
Very much so. Very much so. Doesn't care what wake she leaves as long as she can make her mark. And that means maybe in an episode she flies someone she met off of Instagram out from Miami to California just to get even with a guy she used to date and hasn't dated for multiple years. It's a lot of power there. I think that like this chapter was interesting because you have the ick, but then something about a person be like, oh, I'm seeing you in a whole new light. But the segment of this that jumped out to me that I wanted to read to everyone really spoke to me and my youth trying to be a show-off. And that is, there was this guy in high school that was in love with me. He was a thespian. If you've never had a thespian in love with you, you should know that it is very intense. I mentioned once that I liked the movie Ace Ventura. From that point on, he ended every conversation with, all righty then. He made a lot of grandiose overtures to show me how much he adored me. He was, if nothing else, engaged. I figured, why not? I guess I'll give the theater kid a whirl. None of my other prospects seemed promising. Good Lord. The Ace Ventura quoting is giving my own memories the ick. There's a lot of things about that movie that don't age well, but just being a kid who wants to be Jim Carrey and woo someone that way is very, very uncomfortable. I find that these books, though, as our final thoughts as we wrap up today, are incredible junk food, and they make the universe of the podcast Vanderpump Robs, grow even further, because you're only going to see so much of someone on reality TV. And Molly, this, we like to watch these shows and talk about what's presented to us, right?
Yeah.
We all know there's an edit. We all know all of these other things, but like being able to get these snippets on stuff that's not on social media and not on the show just help make us laugh at these people, but also like kind of understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Molly, can you just give concisely a little bit of like our talks on other Vanderpump Rules episodes and our Winter House series that's coming to a close next week, and so that maybe if people want to tune in, they can check it out?
Definitely. So we've been watching Winter House, and after each episode, we've been recapping. And I feel like it's a mix of like we recap what happens, but we give our thoughts on it. We bring in some of our own personal experiences. I feel like we like to totally dive into the world of reality TV and try to analyze it. But like Rob said, also kind of accepting this fantastical fantasy world as it is, and just kind of meeting the show where it is. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. I have a question though, before
please.
We get into what we're going to do on the podcast. Shannon and Rob, as readers of these books, what do you feel like is particularly successful and what isn't? Because it was interesting to me that Kristen Doty and her co-writer made the choice to write this almost as like a self-deprecating self-help book, like a bit of a how-to guide. And I was wondering what you think has worked well.
Shannon, feel free to go first.
I've only read 2 chapters of Kristen's book, but I have to say I would probably gravitate more towards that style of book. And it is interesting. You don't know how much is ghostwritten by who, but I feel like Stassi's book was very much what everyone thinks of me, my world, how people talk about me. And it seems like Kristen's is how I get people to like me and how I do. It was a little bit more outward. So like Rob said, it's complete junk food, read on a beach vacation types of books. But I do like what Kristen's doing in this book a little bit more. And maybe it's because 10 Things I Hate About You. I mean, it's such a classic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to say that like, what really just sparks joy out of these books for me is when I'm like choosing the ones that I want to keep and the ones that I want to maybe like donate to another public library, one of those little ones on the side of the road, just to bring someone else some new perspectives on life. Maybe not the best perspectives, but I think that like it helps me get content for the pod, but also I just like taking that extra step into that world. There's only so much that you're gonna get, and being able to like thumb through it, not worry if I skip a chapter, and still like be able to like laugh at myself for reading it, and them and the world that they've created for themselves. Shannon, I wanted to allow a little bit of time for you to talk about Fluently Forward, because I've had so much fun listening to your podcast, reading your newsletter, and participating with you on it. So if you would like to let people know what it's about, I'd allow to have your time.
Fluently Forward, we're a podcast and we cover all topics in entertainment, kind of this blend of gossip and conspiracy theories. So whether that's about folks on a reality show, movies, regular shows, from Gossip Girl to Euphoria to the Jeffrey Epstein case and Atlantis, if there's anything where you can kind of look a little bit deeper and go, what are the rumors about this situation and what's everybody saying about it? That's what we cover. So it's a little bit of a crazy train, but it's fun.
Yeah, and much like Vanderpump Robs, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Vanderpump Robs. You have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Fluently Forward, correct?
Yeah, and we just dropped a hour-long episode together. You don't even have to be a Patreon patron to access it. So if anybody wants to check that out.
Yeah, it's great. Now, we have just a couple of minutes left before they yank us through the portal and tell us more about what's happening on in this fun Manscaped sponsored thing. So until then, I would like to just pull out one recipe from Fancy AF Cocktails because I don't drink, but I have found that some of these are good even without alcohol in them. So let's go with Lego My Ego.
Oh,
I won't read the whole thing, but it is a drink rating of classy. It's not trashy. You need a coupe glass, a cocktail shaker, and some Chambord and Tennessee whiskey. 1 ounce honey, 3/4 ounce Chambord, 2 ounce Tennessee whiskey, 2 dashes of vanilla bitters, 1 large egg, and garnish with a waffle and maple syrup. Now, you'll have to find the book to actually figure out how to put those things together. But until then, there's another one in here, I should say, that's just a ketchup packet, water bottle, vodka, and sugar. And I believe that's the game day Bloody Mary in a pinch.
That's actually pretty funny. You gotta love something like that.
I'm assuming that's under the trashy.
Yeah, that would be full trash meter on the other side. So yeah, thanks y'all for joining me today. This has been another episode of Vanderpump Robs Book Club. We do these sometimes on the Patreon. Molly, you're a great co-host. Shannon, you're a great guest. And thank you all for tuning in to this Sonar event.
Ooh, thanks for having us.
Yeah.